I swallowed it in a single gulp. It didn't feel too bad. The pills were a little big and kind of rough and extremely bitter, but that was all. I drank another glass of water just to make sure the 4 pills would make it all the way down to my stomach. 1 pill in, 10 pounds off, said the elderly lady with a weird smile. But be careful to only take 1 each day. Yes, ma'am, I replied with a humble smile. The whole thing was just so surreal. Carol had just left me for a broad-shouldered, 6'4" ex-quarterback from Ohio, and I couldn't cope with that. I had that terrible idea of asking common questions asked by those who lose their lovers. What does he have that I don't? Ah, she laughed and said, Hey, chubby boy, it isn't what he has, but what you do. What? Let me guess, about 30 pounds of fat? Come on, Bob. You lie on the couch and do nothing but drink beer and eat pizza and bacon by the pound. You never get up your ass and do anything but get fatter and fatter. Carol? Fuck you, Bob. Fuck you, and fuck your stupid bacon. Carol wasn't exactly a supermodel herself. She had a fair amount of extra weight in her belly, her hips, and even her chubby cheeks, but she didn't seem to be as bothered by her own fat as she was by mine. She'd moved on, and I could never figure out what it was that kept the quarterback tied to her, especially if he was as tall and ripped as she said he was. He broke me down and pushed me over the edge, and I began to eat twice as much and twice as fast as I used to. More bacon, more pizza, more beer, plus vanilla and chocolate ice cream and homemade animal-style fries. When I finally decided to go to a doctor, it was almost impossible for me to breathe while walking or even standing. You see, Mr. Craig, your weight gain is now a threat to your health in a very serious way. Obesity is not only an aesthetic issue, that's just the tip of the iceberg. By the time you've gained inches due to fat accumulation, your internal organs, especially your heart, is covered in thick layers of fat. So I'm prone to heart problems? Mr. Craig, I'm afraid that due to your obesity, you're prone to many serious illnesses. I left the doctor's office, out of breath and petrified. I would actually need to lose weight before I could qualify for bariatric surgery to lose weight, so I hit the gym. Such a bittersweet experience, watching all those hot young women in tight clothes bouncing around. The same kind of young girls who would never look at a fat guy like me. I tried to go to the gym 3 times a week, thinking of the sight of tits and ass as a solace for all the extreme pain I would endure, not only from exercise, but also for being on the same sort of diet as a rabbit. Oh God, no more veggies, no more! The giant rabbit showed no mercy and kept force feeding me cucumbers, carrots, zucchini, basil, and mint. I choked, but it was only a nightmare. So many nights I woke up sweating and rushed towards the fridge in order to make my stomach stop aching. I ate enough to gain twice the fat I lost on the day before. Rather than losing weight, the opposite occurred. In the month after Carol left me, I gained 10 extra pounds. I found Miss Lasiva through an internet ad, and at first I found her too old to call her Miss, but she was skinny. Not only skinny, as much as I could see of her body, was very toned. If not for her face, I would have easily thought she was 20 or 30 years old. After a couple of emails, we decided to meet at a nearby coffee shop. For some reason, she insisted on meeting face to face to give me her special diet pills, as well as further instructions. She was even weirder in person than she was on the ad. Her skin was pale, almost grey. Her eyes a shade of blue that was almost purple. Her gaze was piercing. Mr. Craig, before we go any further, I want to know the reason why you want my pills, said Miss Lasiva in an unidentifiable accent. She took a sip of the coffee. Well, don't take this the wrong way, Mr. Craig, but I don't sell the pills to people who want it simply for aesthetic purposes. Oh? I know it sounds unusual, but I want to make sure you're doing it because you need to. Well, as you can see, Miss Loueva, it is Lasiva. Oh, I'm sorry. It is okay. I was rude to correct you. Go on. Well, as you can see, I'm a fairly heavy man. Indeed you are. And I need to lose weight. I can see that. There are a few things we can do to fix that. Exercise isn't working for me. Oh, you could try to reduce your carbs. I was silent. I know. You're here for the pills. Yes, if you don't mind. Oh, there you go, said Miss Lasiva, handing me a small handmade-looking paper bag. I opened it and gazed inside. Not only the bag, but also the pills themselves looked homemade. They weren't exactly pills, but herbal-looking tablets, dark and slimy. I thought that I wouldn't want them inside my trash can, let alone in my stomach. Also, the instructions are very simple. 1 each day, preferably at night. 1 pill in, £10 off. But be careful, swallow only 1 each day. Yes, ma'am. It was hard to hold off until I could get home, and when I finally made it, I found myself staring into the mirror, feeling disgusted by all the fat that made me look so goddamn bloated. The years and years I'd spent trying to lose a single pound. The guys running around with their six-packs, surrounded by hot chicks. I wanted that too, so I just said, fuck it, and I swallowed 4 at once. It didn't feel too bad, not at first, but then. First, I felt like I was going to throw up. My stomach was churning, pulsating, but since I hadn't had anything to eat that day, I just threw up my own bile, again, and again, and again. Then the pain came, terribly intense. It was like being burned alive from the inside out. The pain grew to the point that I passed out. "What the fuck, Bob?" whispered a female voice. I knew that voice. It was Carol. "Oh, we better call 911, said a male voice I'd never heard before. Lying on the floor in a semi-conscious, feverish state, I couldn't sit up or even look up, but I knew it must be the quarterback. But as my clouded eyes moved towards the source of the voice, I was presented with an image that didn't match what I had imagined. Sure, the guy was tall, but apart from that, with his bloated physique and lack of hair, he couldn't have been further from the love machine I had envisaged. "The guy, he's lying in a pool of some kind of slime, but he seems to be alive," whispered the bald, bloated former quarterback. "Fuck it, I'm going to get the rest of my stuff." "Carol, you never told me your ex was so toned." The last sentence was the only thing that could take Carol away from searching for her things, meaning any money or valuables she could find at my place. "Holy shit," said Carol, almost screaming at the very sight of my new physique. "Holy fucking shit!" If I could have moved, I would have danced and jumped around like a teenage boy who just touched a pair of breasts for the first time. I was so happy, so extremely happy, so joyous that the new, increasing hunger I felt took a while for me to notice. "Carol," whispered the bald quarterback, but she wouldn't listen. My abs and chest were too much of a delight for her eyes. Neither did she notice another new feature in my body. "Carol!" "What?" came the reply, impatience in her voice. "You didn't tell me your ex had claws either." And as I finally woke up and smiled at them, he added, "Or fangs." It was only a dream covered in red. Maybe it was the giant rabbits force-feeding me, Carol and the bald quarterback. Maybe I'll gain twice the 40 pounds I just lost. It didn't matter. They tasted delicious.